Anyways, life lessons with me.
That is a problem for some people.
Because it really is crucial that your overall health and well-being remains intact as you're wedding planning.
This is The Guide Gals, a modern wedding-focused podcast by the experts at Here Comes the Guide. I'm Chelsea, a designer and inspired creative who's probably racked up over 3,000 hours on Pinterest and the friend who's going to shoot it to you straight.
And I'm Caroline, a social media manager who's obsessed with dogs as ring bearers and will inevitably cry over your wedding video. We've seen it from all sides. We've been brides, planners, bridesmaids, and have worked with standout brands throughout the industry.
Think of us as an extension of your wedding party and hang out with us as we share the ins, outs, ups, and downs of the road to I Do.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Today we are going to be chatting about planning a wedding while you're working a full-time position. So this is really going to be for a lot of couples who are likely not going to hire a full-time planner and might be taking on some of the responsibilities yourself.
Yeah, and while it's obviously a super fun and exciting time of your life, planning a wedding is really fun. We think so. But it takes a lot of work and requires a lot of organization. So we're going to break this down and we're going to offer you lots of tips so that way you can execute this as smoothly as possible.
Yes, because honestly, with the amount of stuff you're doing when you're planning a wedding, it's going to feel like another full-time job. There's just a lot that goes into it. So our hope for today is that we can make this process even easier for you by giving you some helpful tips. But before we begin that, because every planning process should involve a good beverage. Chelsea, what are you drinking today?
I have a podcast first and I am just drinking coffee from home. I'm being very economical and practical today.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's just coffee with hazelnut creamer, which was a bold choice for me.
Yeah, I love that.
But it's pretty good. Warm. It's good.
See, I am in this. Okay, mine is also a podcast first. I have a Celsius today. We are not sponsored. But I love that. I don't know. Celsius for me recently is something that I've discovered as a good alternative for coffee because I hate hot coffee in the summer. Can't do it. Like, just it makes me feel icky. And I've been kind of getting sick of like iced coffees and cold brews because that's been my go-to. So every once in a while I'll grab a Celsius. Today felt like a good day for that.
Yeah, those are really tasty. They do give me like chest pains. So I can't handle them, but they taste like candy. They're good.
I mean, it's great. This one's the mango passion fruit. I'm into it. I'm digging it. So before we jump in, I do have a story to tell. If you want to hear this full story, go over to our Instagram to check it out if you care. If you don't, that's fine. But I think it's crazy. Anyways, life lessons with me. We don't have to include this anywhere, but that was, if you
well, this is all up to you. You do the editing. Okay, well, we're excited to talk about this subject today, as we are with pretty much every episode. But obviously, both of us have full-time jobs, and neither of us are planning a wedding right now. But we definitely understand the concept of, working full-time and trying to do other things as well. So, like we said, we have lots of tips for you. Our first tip is to get super organized. So you're going to want to figure out an organizational system for yourselves right away. Like the bottom line with this is it doesn't matter how you choose to stay organized as long as you pick a system that works for you and you stick with it. That is a problem for some people. Like they'll make a wedding binder and then they'll also take notes over here, and then halfway through their planning they'll be like, oh my gosh, well, maybe I'll start putting everything like digitally in my computer. Like, Don't do that. That you're going to make way more work for yourself and you're probably going to lose track of things. So, I mean, whatever works for you. It could be, you could keep everything in Google Drive. You could have a physical folder. We're fans of a wedding binder. Whatever works for you, just make sure that you stick to it. And then once you do choose the way that you'd like to organize things. Make sure that you delegate. Definitely between you and your partner, figure out who's going to do what, make sure the expectations are clear. And if there's anyone besides you and your fiance that are going to be helping with planning the wedding, delegate that out as well. So like maybe your mom really wants to be involved in a certain way or something. Just make sure the expectations, like I said, are super clear. You know who's doing what. That'll be a time saver in the end and a stress saver.
Yes. Okay, actually, I'm going to do a shameless plug here really quickly that Here Comes the Guide has developed a whole list of free wedding printables. So we are a very type A organized group of women, and we really feel like this is an area where we're like, we can help here. So go and check out at Here Comes the Guide our free wedding printables. There are things from like choosing a venue to budgeting to like everything else in between. And you can definitely add those to make sure you're staying organized in this. Check them out if you feel like maybe you can pick and choose one or two that's going to be helpful for you, or grab them all, whatever you want to do. Just know that they are there and they are free for you.
Yeah, it's really like everything that you need to make like a planning binder for yourself. We'll make sure that these are linked on our information page for this episode, so that way you can easily find them. But otherwise, you can go to herecomes.theguide.com and then they can be found there.
Side note that my cat is going to be in and out of this. His name is Solis, and he is insane. Anyways, tip number 2 is to prioritize. So in the interest of keeping your sanity intact, because there's a lot of things that go on, we suggest focusing some of your time and energy onto like those make or break it items for your wedding. So only focus on the things you really care about and feel comfortable to ditch other things. For example, if you aren't really obsessed with tons of wedding flowers, that's fine. Maybe you can pick a venue that naturally has like a garden or just feels decorated already, so you don't have to worry about that floral decor. Or if you don't like cake, there are a lot of other options. You could do donuts, you could do cannolis, you could do, I don't know, whatever your favorite dessert is, you could do. And actually in my area, have you heard about the Pittsburgh cookie table? Okay, so if you are from Pittsburgh, you know. If you know, you know. The Pittsburgh cookie table is like a staple. Essentially what it is a lot of your friends and family will bake a bunch of cookies, and everyone is supposed to have something different, and they'll do a couple dozen, and then they lay it out on this big table, and it's just like piles of cookies. And they will have boxes that you can take some of those cookies home. You can eat them instead of dessert, like instead of cake, you can eat them as well as eating cake. And usually they have like a station for coffee and tea with that too. I think this is amazing. And usually like there are stories that come with the cookie sometimes too. Like if it's like a family recipe, it is so cute. And it's a really good way to maybe not do a full cake for your dessert. And also some people will use it as favors because you can take them home.
Yeah, it's a huge money saver, I feel like, or could be too. Yeah, this is like, that's super cute. It reminds me of Christmas cookies.
Yes.
I mean, at like our Christmas Eve with my family, like a whole bunch of cookies always show up, and like exactly that, like people take them home. So you can like pretty much count on always having like leftover cookies, which is great. And yeah, I mean, like stuff like this is so cute, and yeah, it definitely like veers from tradition, but I think that is better even to like incorporate the things that are like special to you, or like those little touches. It's the stuff that your guests are going to remember, and it's the stuff that you're going to remember. And like, honestly, I'd much rather have a wedding favor as like some cookies to take home and eat later that night or the next day than I would like, I don't know, like a koozie. Like those are cool too. Okay. But like,
they
like
are.
The cookies are really great. It's a really cute idea.
Listen, I love anything, any favor that you can eat is just like kind of one of my favorites. And if you want to adopt the Pittsburgh cookie table, I'll allow it as someone who doesn't even live in Pittsburgh, just near Pittsburgh. But I think it's a really great tradition, and it kind of does veer from the norm.
Yeah, I love it. The next tip that we have for you is going to be to venue hunt from home. So this might seem like kind of obvious since we literally do everything. We can do everything from our cell phones, and we do. So yeah, but I mean, just knowing that you don't necessarily have to go and do a ton of in-person tours at a bunch of different venues, or necessarily go and like just check out a bunch of different things in person. Some things you will need to do for sure, dress fittings, like cake tastings, whatever, like things like that. I mean, especially after COVID, even more so, venues will have tons of information online, and they will likely do virtual tours, meaning like a tour of the venue over like Skype or Zoom video tour. And like during these tours, the wedding coordinator will like walk you through the whole venue. So you'll be able to see the whole space. They'll explain to you like how weddings typically run, what you can expect on the day of. All that stuff is super available to you, and like such a time saver, especially working a full-time job. You might be able to do a venue tour over a lunch break instead of taking like an entire afternoon to do that, taking a half day or something.
Seriously. I think you're so right. Like, we are so used to doing all of these searches and stuff online, and you can do it on Here Comes the Guide. Shameless plug number 2. Really, Here Comes the Guide is built like for this purpose. Exactly this, like to be able to search for your venue, and you can search by location, budget, guest count. You could search by the style, like from things from a rustic barn to something that is more industrial or modern. And you can search for things like all inclusive, or if you are having a weekend wedding, like on-site accommodations. That might be something that you want to look for. You can also get like pricing, special offers and discounts, and you can book your tour through Here Comes the Guide. So you can reach out. We have the information for the contact there, and so you can start that process of seeing what they look like, even if you just want to start with the photos and videos on Here Comes the Guide. If that captures your attention, then go reach out to them there.
Yeah, it really is. The site is like a search engine that's focused on making the planning process of finding a venue as easy for you as possible. So yeah, like Caroline said, you can narrow down results to figure out exactly what you're looking for, and there's not going to be like any junk that shows up. It's going to be what you're looking for. Yeah. So yeah, another way that you can plan your wedding from your couch.
Yeah. And the next tip kind of goes from what I was just saying about all-inclusive. And tip number 4 is to embrace all-inclusive. So you'll find that you can search by all-inclusive on Here Comes the Guide and see different packages, because all-inclusive packages can not only be more cost-effective than purchasing everything a la carte, but they will also save you a lot of your precious time.
Yes.
Like that alone can be worth it. So venues with all-inclusive packages include a ton of things beyond just those event spaces. It includes things like on-site coordination, catering, alcohol, staff, rentals, cake, guest accommodations, and a lot of times a lot more than that. And we're willing to bet that they have a solid list of vendors that you could book for things that maybe aren't included in their all-inclusive package. So with one booking, you can cross off like 15 things to do on your to-do list.
Yeah, this is... It saves seriously so much time, not only just like communicating, like being able to communicate with one contact versus like 10 different vendor contacts is amazing. And it'll just save you like the searching time trying to find exactly what you're looking for. They'll have things laid out for you.
And especially
Super
when
helpful.
a venue is all inclusive, like they've usually done that before, unless it's a brand new all-inclusive package, but usually that like they are well versed in that, so the flow of things is going to be super simple, the communication aspect is going to be super simple. You will just be able to not only save time, potentially money, but also the ease of mind of just knowing like, okay, no, things are going to be taken care of well. So that's another thing to factor in when you think all-inclusive.
Yes, for sure. And like lots of venues are leaning that way where they have that option. So yeah, something to keep in mind. Our next tip is to hire a planner. So I know at the top of this episode, we said that this is going to be for the couple who is wanting to DIY plan their wedding themselves, but hiring a planner is always an option. If you find yourselves in like way too deep and it ends up being more work than you anticipated, or just not something that you can realistically balance while working full time, you can always find a planner that will be happy to help. So they'll be able to handle all of the details. Their job is to help things run smoothly and take the work off of your plate. So that takes away a lot of stress. Of course, this will be an added expense, but you know, it'll probably save your sanity in the end. Not necessary for sure, but like knowing that this is an available resource It's there for you if you need it.
Yeah, seriously. And kind of like what I was saying earlier with venues that have done all-inclusive packages, know what they're doing and, can make that happen more smoothly. Very similar with planners. If you can hire a planner in your area or in the venue's area, wherever you're getting married, they may have worked a wedding there before, and that can be a huge resource, even if you're just hiring a coordinator or if you're doing a full planner. Like, they will know things from previous experience, and that is huge. They might know how events have run before, prettiest photo spots at your venue, or things to avoid because they've experienced it before at this specific place. So definitely check that out if you can, if that's something you're looking into, and if they have worked at your venue before, see that as a really good sign.
Definitely.
Okay, so tip number 6 is to use your PTO wisely. Depending on how much PTO you have, you might want to start planning that well in advance, because there are a lot of things that you need to do when you're wedding planning. So maybe you'll want to use a good chunk of that PTO time for the week of your wedding. That's pretty common, but maybe you'll want to use a day off here or there to do vendor consultations, do dress shopping, whatever that looks like. Or honestly, you might just want to take a mental health day every once in a while, because maybe your weekends are packed with wedding planning stuff and you just need a day off during the week to just be. And that is good and okay. But whatever the case is, just make sure you're giving yourself a bit of grace. But definitely strategically use those days. Find out how much you've earned, when you can use it, and definitely give your boss a good heads up of when you're going to use it, / communicate that well. That piece is super important to make sure you can get that time off.
Yeah, I think communication really is key. Of course, every company has different policies, and, every boss or supervisor will, like, the communication level might be different, but at the end of the day, they are human. If you are very clear with them, letting them know that you are getting married, planning a wedding, they might be a little bit more flexible with you, and they'll likely be pretty understanding. So just make sure that you communicate what's going on.
Yes. No one was wondering, but that was Luna and not Solus. So
that was a different one. I didn't even notice.
Yes.
That's awesome. It's a zoo over there, apparently.
It seriously is.
I do have 2 dogs in the room with me, but they're off camera, and they're having naps, so you will not see them, but they are here in spirit.
Meanwhile, mine are prancing around.
Okay, our next tip is going to be to limit the DIY projects. So DIY projects are really fun. They can be really cool. I love Pinterest. Like, I'm a fan of a DIY project, but they are a massive investment of time and energy, and sometimes, like, money. I mean, well, obviously money, but
yeah,
you think of DIY projects as being the cheaper option. That's not always the case. I mean, like, how it goes. Like, you'll go to Hobby Lobby and buy all of the stuff for, like, this new thing that you're going to do. And, it looks so easy online. And then you start doing it, and then you realize it's going to take, like, way more time. And then you realize that you're not actually that good at it. And you end up messing some up. You have to go buy more supplies, and you're going crazy. And it's just not always the best idea. So be realistic about it. Be realistic with how crafty of a person you really are, how much help you have from other people, and how much time you have. Like, definitely, if you're going to choose to do DIY projects, choose like 1 or 2, and do not do them like 3 days before your wedding. Like, that's not a good idea. And you're not going to be okay. Like, trying to get stuff done super last minute. Yeah.
Yeah. DIY projects, I am a sucker for. Like, just for wedding projects, yes, but also, like, for my home. I'm a serial hobbyist. Like, I love picking up random hobbies because I'm a little bit delusional in thinking that I can do everything. I taught myself how to knit, how to weave, how to sew clothing. I love just picking up random things. And they're super fun and great and all, but, like, they take a lot of money and time, and yeah, like, just needing to bring yourself down to earth and say, like, okay, I can't do everything is, like, totally fine. And for me, kind of the one DIY project, thankfully I had a lot of people around me who were helping me with other DIY projects, but the one that I did myself, I was like, I'm gonna teach myself how to embroider, and I'm gonna get these robes that I could have had someone else embroider. Like, I could have paid someone to do this, but I decided I was gonna do it myself, and I had this pretty design that I did, and I did their initials on it. And I got to the point where I had 8 bridesmaids, and 6 of them I got done. And then my
that's
2
a
sisters
lot of
who were in the
bridesmaids, by the way. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot. I just I couldn't, because, and I also, okay, I have a lot of sisters, and still only 2 of them were in my wedding. So there was a lot going on there. But for my sister's robes, I only put their initials on it, and I didn't finish the design in time. And I was just like, I'll get to the design afterwards, but like I wasn't going to pick that back up, and I never did. And they only have initials on their robes, and I don't think they care, but it was just one thing that just kind of fell to the wayside at the end.
Yeah, and like it will. Like, that's just like the way DIY projects go. So if you're going to choose things that you're going to DIY, maybe don't make them like the most important aspects, or something that's like really, really important that is like correct on like your wedding day. Because you have to expect that it's not going to come out perfect. That's just reality.
Seriously. Yeah. So our last tip for you, tip number 8, is to practice self-care. Really, a lot of times when things get busy and stressful, self-care can be the first thing that goes out the window, which stinks, because it really is crucial that your overall health and well-being remains intact as you're wedding planning. And that goes for really any period of your life, but especially during this time when it's super stressful. So finding some ways to decompress is important, whether that's if you're going to go on a long walk with a great podcast in your earbuds, maybe you're listening to us right now, or a bubble bath with a good book, or a glass of wine and you're watching your favorite TV show. Whatever that looks like, just make sure you have some time to pamper yourself so that you're able to tackle everything with intention and vigor.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super busy, and like as you get even closer to your wedding day, like your wedding week, like all of that, you know, it might get more and more stressful, and like there's a lot of like emotional investment in the whole process too. Of course you're busy, but like on top of that, it means a lot to you, and you want it to go the way that you want it to go. Yeah, I mean, like one of like the things that I've seen other people do that I think is really like sounds really nice is getting like a monthly facial leading up to your wedding, which facials, like, I mean, the ones I've gotten, unless I'm like getting a chemical peel, end up being like super relaxing. It's like kind of a therapeutic experience. You might like halfway fall asleep. So that's like a really nice way to decompress, and it like is like an added like beauty thing, like beauty prep for your wedding. So that's really cool. Did you do any specific self-care leading up to your wedding?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely fall into category of this, like, I needed to step back and make sure that I was taking care of myself, because when I have a project to be done, I get so focused on it, it's hard for me to like pull myself away. So I feel like the one thing that we really did was prioritizing our date nights, even more so like after we got engaged and like leading up to the wedding, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the most important thing about your wedding is that you get married and that you have an amazing marriage. And that was something that we didn't want to lose during the wedding planning process. So it was really our way of self-care, was to just be able to pour into our relationship in that way and take actual time. And like, not that we were spending time together on date night talking about the wedding planning at all. Like, it was just supposed to be totally removed from that. So we were just with each other. And I think that was the most helpful thing.
Yeah, that's like probably actually the best tip of the episode, is to like prioritize your relationship during the stressful planning process, and like, remember that you're getting married at the end of the day, and it's because you like each other. So like, you're spending quality time together, and like, that's a really awesome tip. Definitely trumps facials, although different category, still important.
Listen, I'm still gonna get facials.
Yeah. You can do both.
Yes. There are so many tips in this episode that I think apply not only to wedding planning, but just like a good moment for self-reflection for me, of like taking time to be organized and practicing self-care. No matter if you're planning a wedding or not, these are just good things to think about. And I do think a lot of times I say like, oh my gosh, I love talking about this stuff through this episode, which I always do. And like, especially this one too. Like, this is so fun to think about all of the ways that you can handle wedding planning. And hopefully there are some tips that you weren't expecting in here that will help make it easier for you.
Yeah, no, I think that this stuff is like not only applicable to like obviously the subject of wedding planning while working a full-time job, but like probably to anyone who works a full-time job. Maybe you work a full-time job and you're a parent, and like that's a like a lot going on. I don't have kids, but like taking care of them obviously is its own job. Or if you have a side hustle or multiple jobs, like whatever it is that you do, you can probably take these tips with you.
Yes.
Yeah, but this was a fun
good
one.
episode. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and thanks for hanging out with us again. Good luck with your planning. Good luck with your organization. And yeah, if you have any questions for us, you can always reach out. We have our Instagram at the Guide Gals Podcast. You can reach out to us there. We also have a contact section on our website. We'd love to hear from you if you have questions, comments, episode suggestions. We'd love to hear that. Yeah. There's also a web page for every single episode that we do that's packed with show notes. Any resources that we mentioned can be found there, and you can watch the video version there too.
Yeah. And seriously, like the way that we want you guys to feel with this is like, yeah, come and follow us because we share behind the scenes, but also because we really do want your input on things that you want to hear and how we can further help you in your wedding planning process. Like that's our whole goal, is to make this better and easier for you. So yes, check out the website, check us out on social media. We'd love to chat with you there.
Yes. And find us, we should mention, it is theguidegalspodcast.com for our website. Our Instagram is at The Guide Gals Podcast. You can watch us on YouTube. That's going to be at Here Comes the Guide.
Yes.
And
that's where that's all we have.
We'll be there. Have for you today. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Until next time. Cheers.
Cheers.